Yo, what's going on everyone? Brian and Jim here with DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and today we're checking out Doom, which was released in 2016, or as I like to call it, Doom 4.
Released in, well, 2016. Thanks, Brian.
I already said that!
Yes, I know. This game was developed by id Software and published by Bethesda. This game had kind of a rocky development cycle, bit of a rough beta test, and then came out to critical acclaim. So let's see if this game's worth the hype.
One thing that always cracks Jim and I up is when we see these reviews for games that are out right now that look like this, and people still try to find ways to say it doesn't look good or there's some issue. This game looks frigging amazing.
And we played it on the worst version, quote unquote.
Anyway.
Right, it's a good point.
Not a good point. Terrible point.
Great point.
Shut the fuck up, it all looks fine! Anyway, let's just start looking at the actual levels themselves. Now, they're obviously huge and it's from Bethesda, so you expect quality and they friggin' deliver. The levels all feel like they had a lot of time and attention put into them, and nothing just feels like it's haphazardly thrown in there, or just repeat it for the sake of filling up the space. There's a ton of attention to detail, there's little demonic symbols left all over the place, and the Mars section didn't really get me that excited, but hell, holy shit. Now, really the star of this game is the gore and the monsters. They put a lot of thought into revamping some of the old classics we love so much, and obviously, if you know anything about this game, you know about the glory kills. Holy shit, are they brutal. Now granted, there's only a handful per monster, so the chances are you're going to re-see them over and over again, but you never really get tired of them. So, as far as graphics, I gave it a 10 and Jim gave it an 8. Games like this, I just can't find anything to really fault them for. So, as far as beer, I'm going to add 1 for Jim being a blub blub.
This sound. God damn, what a package they throw together here. So I'll start this off like I started the old Doom review, and the sound effects in this game are just gory and squishy and dirty and grimy. It just sounds how you want a Doom game to sound. There's some voice work in the game, and it's actually done pretty well, surprisingly well actually. And luckily it doesn't beat you over the head completely with storyline either, so...
Jim!
What? What?
Jim, don't forget to mention that Samuel Hayden's voice is Lance Hendrickson.
The fuck are you talking about? It's Darren DePaul.
Nobody knows who that is, just call him Lance Hendrickson.
Oh, God.
Fine, fake Lance Hendrickson.
Alright, fine. Fake Lance Henderson did a great job. Are you happy?
Bishop.
But yes. Now, let's get to the real star of the sound. The music. I'm not gonna say I can see it being quite as memorable as the old Dooms.
It's not.
Fair enough. But it's hard-hitting, it's fast, it's appropriate, and it's this weird combination of metal, EDM, gent, dubstep. It's just all this weird mishmash that put together just works so goddamn well. And Mick Gordon just did a hell of a job putting this together. Plus the throwbacks to the original Doom, and actually a lot of the Doom games are really welcome. Either way, it's a great package. We both gave it 8s. And as far as beer goes, alright, fuck it. We'll throw in 1 beer for fake Lance Henderson. Why not?
Bishop. So remember how simple and straightforward the control was in the original Doom? Well, they definitely tweaked it here. And they definitely utilize a lot more buttons depending on which controller you're using. Now right off the bat, let me say, the aiming is once again not your typical aim down sight, unless you have certain weapons. It's more of that, how I like to call it, the Left 4 Dead style, where you just aim with your generic crosshairs and you shoot the dick off of people. But there is one added caveat that we hadn't seen since, the original Doom, and that is there's no reloading. And for guys like Jim and I, who have played a shit ton of first-person shooters since the original Doom, you automatically start shooting and will tend to hit the X button or whatever you're using in order to reload, and nothing happens. They do have a button layout for some of your secondary weapons, like the chainsaw, your BFG. They use the bumpers for your grenades, and the most unique characteristic is when you get upgrades for your weapon, if you hit up, it'll switch over. So there are a lot of options in this game. The one thing that still confuses the shit out of me, the pushing in the right stick on your controller will help you perform a melee or your glory kills. I don't know why they felt the need to make that your action button as well. It's a little minor gripe, but it's something that still annoys me when I think about when I was playing through that game. Why couldn't you just use another button? Putting that aside, it's just as straightforward a shooter as you would think of any of the others. There is a decent amount of platforming, and the jumps are weird because you almost are always falling short, but they have this built-in animation of climbing up, which I guess they were just really proud of that animation, because you almost never really jump to a platform without having to do that. So I actually gave it an 8, Jim gave it a 9. Get used to him overscoring some things. And as far as beer, I'm gonna add 1 for that goddamn jump animation that you're gonna see probably way too much.
So, the gameplay. Let's get into it. This game does a great job of mixing old-style Doom with new-style mechanics and gameplay. Like Brian already said, it doesn't control like a normal first-person shooter does. But you know what else this game is? It's a lot faster, it's a lot more twitchy, and it just has a flow of combat you don't see in any first-person shooters these days. The game really, just like the old Dooms, encourages exploration. There's so many secrets to be found. And a lot of these secrets go towards upgrades for your gun, for your character, for different abilities. At a certain point in the game, if you do enough searching, you just feel like a god as you go through these utterly insane action sequences, which do a good job of staying challenging, but also just being manageable and extremely fun. The platforming in the game never felt tacked on or really hard in any way. There's a verticality to these levels that it gives you different ways of going through the level, and everything just seems to have been designed with such a purpose. There's no wasted space in these levels, except for maybe the little Easter egg here and there, which, when you come across them, you kind of step by them and go, wait, what the hell did I just see? Like, look at this. You know what this is. Besides that, the actual combat itself, I've mentioned it already, but it just flows. I had some reservations at first because I didn't like the fact that you can only swap easily between 2 guns and then had to go to your wheel to access the rest of them. But after a while, you're doing it on the fly, and you just do it so easily and almost by reflex. You're not even thinking about it anymore. Like, oh shit, I want my rocket launcher. Now I want my Gauss cannon. Now I want my pistol. You just swap back and forth into...
Nobody wants a pistol.
Alright, true, no one does want the pistol. That thing sucks. Also, the game introduced these glory kills. And at first, like most people, I thought this was just a goddamn gimmick. But you know what? It turns out to be such an integral part of the game. Early in the levels, you're like, I don't need this shit. But later on, not to say you straight up depend on them, but when you see the guys glowing and you can go in for them, oh my god, is it important. And luckily, when you kill people with glory kills, there can be ammo drops, armor drops, health drops, and depending on certain relics you can get better chances at a lot more of them. What are relics, you say? Well, these are secret challenge missions that are hidden through basically the middle parts of the game. There are all these objective-based game elements that almost forces you to use mechanics you probably wouldn't have used otherwise. It just really helps you learn the game mechanics even more, and in the end, helps you become a better player at the game. Some of them can be a little cheap, and the time windows can be really annoying, but it just adds a lot more to the game. Woo! Now let's get to the multiplayer.
Holy shit, wrap it up. You'll talk about that in replayability.
Okay, there's multiplayer and the Snap Mac, which I will talk about in replayability. Overall, Brian gave it an 8 and I gave it a 10. I fucking love this game, and it's rare when I say a game's worth the hype, but this game deserved all the accolades it got. And as far as beer goes, you don't need any.
The originality is another area where Jim and I differ the most in our scores. Like Jim mentioned, that glory kill mechanic, it really does become a part of your gameplay style and forces you to play in a different way than you're used to. So that felt original, and like I said, not having to reload. Let's face it, reloading in a video game, yeah, for realism's sakes, it makes sense, but it doesn't add fun to a game. So taking out that element and just keeping ammo not in such a high reserve or feeling like you could still run out without having to reload, that made it just, you know, the way you approach combat feel completely different. Other than that, though, let's face it, this took all the monsters, the guns, and a lot of things we were used to from all the previous Dooms. Sure, they made them look a lot better, but they didn't really do anything different with them. So, as you see from the scores, I gave it a 4, Jim gave it a 6. Once again, he goes a little high on this game. It still offered some mechanics that made the game feel new in a saturated market for first-person shooters. As far as beer, I'm going to add 1 for Jim giving too many points.
The replayability. Well, let's get the easy stuff out of the way first. There's a shitload of secrets, as I already talked about. There's a lot to find and unlock. There's all the different things you can level up. There's all the different mini challenges throughout the levels. Plus, there's all the different difficulty levels. While you start with the basic, easy, medium, and hard, you unlock more of them as you beat the game, which is, once again, back to classic Doom, but still awesome. Now, let's get into the multiplayer. I'll be honest, the multiplayer isn't the deepest around. It still has all the common tropes of multiplayer and first-person shooters like team deathmatch, free-for-all, domination, king of the hill, stuff like that. And it throws in its own cool little mechanics, like being able to turn into demons and run around until someone kills you and then they become the demon. The leveling up system doesn't really give you a reason to want to come back that often, but if you want a fun time waster, it's here for you, and it's at the very least competent. There's also the snap map feature. What this is basically a level creation tool, and it's kind of a throwback to what people on PC get or the modding community does, but it gives that to basically everyone and consoles which normally don't get that. It's not the hardest thing in the world to use, and if you want to put the time into it, you can actually make some pretty cool shit out of it. And people have come up with some really wacky ideas, whether it's, thought-based simulations or throwbacks to Call of Duty Zombies, or, just some really well laid out deathmatch areas. There's a ton of shit to do, and it gives you infinite possibilities. Long story short, we both gave it 10s. Basically, almost anytime there's a map creation tool, we're going to give it high scores, but throw that in with the normal multiplayer mode, and the difficulty levels, and you have reasons to come back again and again and again. I'll just throw in one beer because with all this content, you're gonna get thirsty.
So overall, even though I'm giving Jim some shit about his scores, this is a really excellent game, and let's be honest, Bethesda doesn't really make many duds. While people who are really tired of the first-person shooter genre might avoid this game, we'd say it's worth a look. And like Jim said, with the level of replayability and the things to do, it's very impressive, and the focus is all on that single-player campaign. But if you have an itching for that multiplayer, it can satisfy you there as well. It's debatable whether it's as classic as the original Doom, but there's no question it's a much better game.
Here comes some hate.
Now, me personally, the one thing I will say is that I felt the game got a little repetitive in the sense that when you explore, you get to a arena, you fight a bunch of demons, you clear it, you do a little more exploring in another arena. But like Jim said, if you keep using weapons in a different way and with the different types of enemies, it won't hinder your fun that much. When it comes to scores, I gave it an 8 and Jim gave it a 10. He clearly loved the shit out of this game, and I can fully understand why. When we combined all of our scores together, it rounds out to an 8.6. Still one of our highest scores that we've given a game, and we just hope more first-person shooters will take some notes from this game and start making them a little better. When it comes to the beer pairing, I have to go with the Mystic Brewery's Day of the Doom. Obviously, with the name Doom in it, it's an easy choice. However, this is going to be one of the stronger beers you're ever going to try. Coming in at 12%, this quad is filled with flavor. And I'm going to be honest, just like this game, it's going to be a hard beer to get all the way through, but if you do, you're going to realize you just went through a really complex and enjoyable experience. Much like this game. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly. As always, guys, thanks for checking out this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you give us a thumbs up, leave some comments, or better yet, why not subscribe? Till next time, guys, cheers.